move with that. So one of the things that obviously impacts environment and that we are working in, a lot of things impact environment. What we are working in is solid waste management. And in the Indian context, and like India, every other country, US, Europe, name it, everybody has people and people consume. And after they consume, they generate waste. And so the Indian numbers, obviously our population density and population is high. So we do have a huge waste impact. And as you can see here, most of the metros, the big cities of India do contribute to a very, very large percentage of the waste that is thrown out. And in most countries and cities, it is collection, transportation, and landfilling, or what we call dumping of waste. So India dumps a lot of waste daily. We are a country that has been historically very conscious because of our being a developing country. We have it in our culture to recycle. So we salvage everything, like newspapers, traditionally recycled all over India. It's been done since I was a kid. And it is in our blood to, protect the environment and recycle. But what has happened is over the years, convenience has become a price that we are paying for collateral damage of the environment. And it's a use and throw approach that is causing a lot of environmental impact. So this is something that, it's easy in India to do because we have a whole infrastructure network of recyclers and the whole back end. But yeah, we need a lot more consciousness. That's what we at RUR are working on to bring about that consciousness. So, okay, I'm trying to move the slide down. So what we've adopted is a theory of change. So where there is this whole thing about collection, transportation, dumping. Even we say Sweden has the country has been, sort of benchmarked by putting waste to energy as one solution, and it takes care of a lot of the waste. But that's not circular economy, because once it's become energy, it became kind of lost. It's not going back the materials into the earth's resources. So we at RUR believe that individuals or groups, smaller groups really can make a change. You don't need to do it at country level. You don't need to bring the waste to a big energy plant and make energy out of it and burn a lot of energy in making energy. You can do it by thinking decentralized, which means at home, at your community level. And so we've been promoting decentralized waste management, which leads to a lot of impact, in the sense that when you take responsibility of your waste, then you can really be wise about it and you can make it into a resource. So with the decentralized approach, we can take care of the land, we can put back materials into the earth stream, we can take care of minimizing any carbon emissions through the transportation of waste, we can do a lot of recovery. So it's kind of a win-win situation. There are some waste streams that we cannot handle in a decentralized manner, and those are something that Meena will share about later, about how we need to reduce them when we don't have an option. But a majority of your waste should be handled by you at source. So it's all about making these smart choices. It's all about, what you and me together can do at home, together can do in our community. So first step, obviously, and most countries are doing this. In India, we have the Swachh Bharat mission. So that's really pushing for us to do segregation at source. And we have been kind of segregating a lot of our waste here over the times, where the government actually has a Solid Waste Management Act, and under the Swachh Bharat mission, the mission that the government is driving, people are mandated to segregate at source. And segregate at 3 levels is what we recommend at source. That's biodegradable waste, all your kitchen waste, then your dry recyclables, and then your hazardous waste. A minimum 3 bin either at your home or in your school. We need to push for that. So that's what we are promoting, a 3 bin approach. Once we do that, we say all your biodegradable waste can be composting. So for composting, we need to make sure we have wet waste. So I have got some wet waste just to show you, which you need to segregate. Okay, so all your kitchen peels, food peels, tea leaves, eggshells, and your dry leaves. You need a good balance of carbon, nitrogen. The biodegradable waste has nitrogen. The dries, which are the leaves, the browns, they have the carbon, and so you need to use them. So there are different methods. We encourage aerobic composting because in our tropical climate, we can create a forest in the home. We replicate what happens. So when you go into a forest, you're not really having a garbage truck there. You're not having any sweeping. The leaves fall and they break down and they become into compost. So what we do is in aerobic composting, we allow oxygen to go into the pile, and then we allow the breakdown over a natural cycle, 45 days cycle to create compost. I'm just going to show you some compost. That's here. Okay, so I've grown my little seeds, as you can see. So my wet waste has become compost, and it's very, very easy to do it when you have a simple system. So we realized this gap in composting, and we realized we need a technology because it was easy to say compost, dig a pit, put your waste in. But cities like Mumbai, where I live, and most cities around the world, there is a lack of space. We don't have space, and we don't know what to do. We can't dig up pits and wet waste. So we needed a very compact solution. That was a gap. That's where technology comes in to promote a solution for the environment. I believe technology is really needed, and we need to think about how we can compost our waste. So we have a system. I'm going to really quickly show you the system here. I have my camera on, so I hope you guys can see it. So this is my aerobic composter we designed at RUR, which converts all the kitchen waste into compost over a period of time. So as you can see, it's a simple rotation mechanism, and you can easily see that we have made a closed loop, so that it's protected from any rain or its rats, pest attacks. And it's a very natural process, and you don't have to add anything into it. You follow what happens in the forest, and you can get compost in 45 days. So, and with that compost, and so we also got this product certified, we filed a patent. I believe that technology has been lacking in the waste management industry. Everything is very crude, very conventional, so people are not adopting it easily. So therefore, more young people like you need to take up, the spirit of environment, entrepreneurship, and develop solutions to solve the waste problem. So, this is a simple mechanism. We have smart air ventilators that allow aeration, and we have a drain control mechanism that controls the water coming out. So, neat design. A lot of good people have appreciated it. We have 100+ projects with this. So, I'm going to share about a project that we have. This is Matoshi's Call Society in Mumbai that has been generating 40 kilos of waste, and we have been showing them how to do this process. Now they have it growing on their terrace. This is a process that you can see. We segregate at source. We have trained housekeeping staff. So when you do composting in a community level, you always also encourage employment. In India, that's a very important thing. We have empowered the waste collectors to have a skill to compost and use that compost to grow kitchen gardens. So you're most welcome to visit us in India and Mumbai and see these gardens where we are composting. And as you can see, it's a cascadable system, very easy to implement. And they have grown a lot of their stuff from this compost on their terrace. Like I will show you quickly some of my vegetables. In the little window, I have chameleon here. I've got pinjor, ladyfinger. Very easy to grow stuff, and that's why we encourage people to make wealth from their waste. And they also have a 7. So in Mumbai, where very less space is available, it's a luxury, and we're able to set up a 7-bin approach downstream. As you can see, we collect Tetra Pak cartons. That's the program we run in collaboration with Tetra Pak, which Sumit will tell you about, where we have encouraged recycling and retail. So we have 44 collection points across Mumbai where any consumer can deposit their carton, cut, clean, and flatten. And I'm really happy to share with you that over the 10 years, we've collected very clean cartons. You can even see your face in them. So people do take that step to, ensure the dry recyclables are clean and neat. The more you keep them clean and neat, the better it is for recycling, the better value you get downstream. And some of the products, like here I have a pen stand I'm showing you, which is fully made from Tetra Pak cartons, and we make benches, tables, and chairs. We donate desks in schools for the cartons collected. So just like a society, we have this corporate office, which is also quickly you can see we do a lot of statistical data analysis to ensure the process is safe, hygienic. It reaches high temperatures up to 60 degrees, so making sure there's no pathogen in the compost that you extract out. And we have had excellent results with our compost. As you can see, with everything's tested, certified. So this is how, through successful stories, 100+ projects, we have been able to compost a lot of kitchen waste. We set up a lot of dry waste recycling systems, reached out to lakhs of people, and I'm glad to share that we are hoping to reach out to you, whoever is here in the audience, to join us. Stay in touch, see how you can adopt decentralized waste management system in your country or where you are living. So we'd be happy to guide you on that. And now I'm going to hand over the stage to Sumit, a dear friend who's going to share the journey after the waste is collected. What happens to the Tetra Pak cartons? What kind of products get made? How is this whole circular economy? How can we all make sure that our waste is becoming well? So over to you, Sumit. I'm going to mute myself, and hand over the floor to you. Would that be fine, Sumit? I will stop sharing.
Thanks, Monisha. Hope everyone can still hear me. And thank you so much for such a for a fully inclusive and passionate presentation, Monisha. And good evening to all. My name is Sumit Jugran, and I work with Tetra Pak as a sustainability manager for South Asia markets. And over a span of last 5 years, I've been fortunate enough to work upon, devise, execute some great projects on sustainability, and we have been advancing sustainability with the same vigor and passion as you could hear in Monisha's voice. So Tetra Pak is for an introduction, Tetra Pak is world's leading packaging and processing solutions company, and which started from Sweden way back in 1950s. And Monisha, in fact, shared about Sweden, that Sweden is known for its trailblazing efforts in sustainability practices, systems, and processes. So that's where our parentage and our vision to work and advance sustainability has come from. And it's not a year or from last 2-3 years that Tetra Pak India specifically has been working and advancing sustainability. We have been doing it when nobody had even heard about these, I would call them as buzzwords: sustainability, circular economy. We had that foresightedness and that vision to start working on sustainability as dated to early 2000s, 16, 17 years back. And Tetra Pak as a company, it is, you would find Tetra Pak cartons everywhere, in your shelves, refrigerators. It, the milk we drink, the juices we consume, it comes in that small and that big, cute packaging box. So you would find it everywhere. Although I would say Tetra Pak cartons are recyclable and increasingly being recycled, but there is still, I would say, a lack of information and awareness on the end consumers. And I am grateful to the organizers of this webinar that we are able to reach out to and make the people aware about that, what all value adds Tetra Pak as a company can provide for its post-consume packages. So this presentation would talk about our strategy, that how do we go about defining and executing sustainability in our business operations, and how have we aptly aligned a sustainability strategy with the UN sustainability development goals. In fact, all aspects of our sustainability contribute to one or the other sustainable development goals in towards the accomplishment of them. So if Monisha, if someone can, is sharing the presentation.
I'll ask Aparna to share it. Aparna will share. Aparna, can you share Sumit's presentation, please?
Yes, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that sustainability is very dear and is at the heart of everything we do, whether it is sales of our packages, the cartons, the processing equipment, or in fact not only that, managing effectively the post consume recovery and recycling of our cartons. So this short presentation will give you a glimpse of the journey from last 16 years, and the help of the stakeholder an active stakeholder like RUR, how we have unitedly go on to this mission of making people aware and collect more and more cartons and reach the levels where we are currently at. Thank you so much. So I'll just, yeah. So this presentation will talk about the design for sustainability, that how do we go about designing our packages and equipments, how do we minimize the life cycle impact of our cartons throughout the value chain, and finally, the most vital one, increase recycling of our post-consume cartons, because they are worth value. They constitute valuable items which can be recovered, should be recovered to be made into great products. So when we talk about the organization Tetra Pak, these are the key sustainability aspects we focus upon: food, people, and futures. And like I shared initially, that each of these sustainability aspect is aligned and contribute to the sustainability development goals actively. So let's start with food. If I talk about food waste, let's say, so we have pioneered the packaging and processing solutions which have redefined the portfolio and which lead to the prevention of the food waste along the entire value chain. And in this way, we are able to positively impact the SDG 2, which is zero hunger. If previous slide, please, Aparna. The second slide. Yeah, thank you. When I talk about the second aspect, people, specifically, our responsibility is not contained to our employees or our customers. It very well extends beyond us to the communities where we operate. Whether it is our manufacturing facility in Pune, Chakan, or wherever across South Asia where we implement our projects, our social and environmental projects. The third aspect is about futures. So futures talks about how we have implemented the strategies of sustainable sourcing and circular economy into our business, so that we can we can retain the resources which goes into making our cartons in the loop as long as we can by recycling them continually. So this is what futures tells us, and it actively impacts the SDG 13, which is climate action. So next slide, please. So by the end of this presentation, I hope that you would be able to answer, not only I, but you would be able to answer these three questions. That what raw materials do we use in our cartons? What is the overall life cycle impact of of our packaging material and the processing equipments? The third and the foremost is what happens after the carton is used, that is post consumption. So we'll start with the first one. Next slide, please. So very few people, are aware about this, that it's a paper-based carton, that it's primarily paper-based. 75% of it is fiber or paper, and that paper is of the highest quality and strength, which is, if when it is put it for recycling, it is loved, adored by the paper mills, who recycle these cartons. The balance 25%, which is polyethylene and aluminium, are also vital barriers, I would say, because they prevent light, oxygen to enter into the beverage, which prevent the beverage from being spoiled or spilled. And all parts of the carton are recyclable. In the following slides, I'm going to talk about the technologies available for recycling. But let me dwell onto the paper element, that the paper a carton has, which is 75%. It comes from sustainable sources, and it is certified by the FSC. You would have heard about this world's leading certification agency for fiber, which stands for Forest Stewardship Council, which gives a certification for paper for its chain of custody, and accredits that it has come from sustainable forests. So our packaging, the fiber in our cartons is 100% from FSC certified sources. Next slide, please. Yeah. So in the next slide, what we have shown is that we are currently on the next slide. We are on the left hand side. That is around 75% of the carton is paperboard, and we want to go to the right hand side. So our endeavor, in the next 5 to 10 years, is to go from left to the right hand side. That is from 75% renewable resources to 100% renewable resources. And in this way, we want to reduce our exposure to fossil-based plastics, and to have more and more maximum renewable material included in our packaging. Going forward, the second question, thanks. You can go to the next slide. Then coming to the next question, that what is the life cycle impact of our cartons? How does it fare as compared to other packaging formats? So when I talk about other packaging formats, what comes to your mind is the PET bottles, the Coke and Pepsi bottles, the glass bottles, the aluminum cans. So there's an independent study which is also available on the public domain. Please, if you can move on to the next slide. So there's a study which is the life cycle assessment study, which clearly shows that the paper-based beverage cartons has the lowest environmental footprint amongst other packaging formats. Like I said, glass, PET bottles, and pouch. And this study has been done, which talks about parameters like acidification potential, like greenhouse gas emission potential. So it covers all the relevant parameters which should ideally capture a life cycle assessment of packaging. So you can also find this study. Like I said, it's on public domain. And apart from this, like I shared earlier, our manufacturing facility where the cartons are made, it's in the Western India, in Pune, and that's the manufacturing plant also has the highest sustainability standards, the highest sustainability SOPs implemented at the factory level. Whether it has the LEED Platinum certified, accreditation. It has a solar power empanel plant. it is a zero waste discharge factory. So all these things put together strongly advocates and reinforces our sustainability commitment. We can move forward. The third question is, what happens after the carton is used? So you would be thinking that, okay, the carton is made, the carton is supplied to end consumers like you and me. We consume it and then we dispose it off in our, the bins, the waste bins we have at our homes. So, but actually, the right practice of waste management starts from, when you dispose of cartons or for that matter any kind of recyclable. And that is why the government has enforced this practice, the rule and practice of 3 bins, which Monisha also shared: the dry, wet, and domestic hazardous. So I would urge all the consumers, specifically on this platform, to put, whenever they consume these cartons, to put these cartons into the dry waste bin, so that they can go into the right channels, and the materials can be recovered to make fantastic products. Moving forward. So once you would dispose it off, and the waste picker from your household or the waste dealer would collect it and bring it to the collection center, and finally it reaches the recycler, what happens to these cartons then? How do they get recycled? So this slide talks about the prevalent technologies we have it in India and in fact across South Asia. So the one technology is called repulping. So repulping is done by the paper mills, which pulp these cartons and remove the paper from it and use the paper to make different kind of paper products. Like here you can see the paper sheets, stationery, corrugated boxes, things like that. So you could relate repulping to it as you would have mixers or grinders at home. In fact, you can repulp the cartons at your homes by putting the cartons with water and grinding it for a minute, and you could see the pulp it gets extracted quite easily. The second technology we have it in India is the full carton technology. Full carton is nothing else but you take the cartons along with their caps, closures, and straws. You shred those cartons into finer pieces, and you compress it by thermal compression, and they become boards. They become compressed boards, which are a wonderful alternative to the ply boards. And then these boards can find applications into various furniture items, like trays, tables, school desks, benches, things like that. So these are the 2 prevalent technologies. I missed to mention. I missed to mention that whenever you do the repulping, the earlier technology I talked about, the pulp is separated and the balance plastic and aluminium is also recycled. It is either turned into roofing sheets or extruded to make into pellets, and these pellets can then be molded to make different kind of plastic utility products. So this is what a snapshot of how the cartons are recycled. Moving on to the next slide, please. So this is an interesting slide. The recycling material is all around you. We use it throughout the day, whether we are traveling, whether we are consuming the different FMCG products at home. So who would have thought that the Bajaj auto rickshaws, where we travel, for our daily commute, the seating panel and the back panel in those auto rickshaws are made from chipboards, and chipboards made from used Tetra Pak cartons. So whenever you get a chance, obviously after the lockdown, whenever you get a chance to sit in these autos, just have a feel and relate to what I'm sharing today. In fact, a lot of packaging products, right from the tea boxes to the toothpaste packaging boxes, we have it at our homes. So these packaging boxes, the fiber in these boxes is also from used Tetra Pak cartons. So you can also, next time, whenever you just before throwing it away, you just can have a look at the fiber element into it and relate to this. Going forward, next slide, please. And these pictures, tells about that once we have the recycling setup, the infrastructure, how do we work with the waste pickers, with the waste trade on ground to pull collections, to pull the cartons from the ground? You would understand and know that all these waste pickers, they are the backbone of the waste management industry, especially in Southeast Asia. They are the one who are keeping our cities clean and contributing to actually Swachh Bharat mission. So we make them aware, we sensitize them sensitize them by telling them to start collecting cartons also, and having an additional source of income by selling those cartons to the recyclers, and spend those income in the well-being of their families. So this was about the economic part. We have over the years, we have also invested in their social equity. So by social equity means, I mean their health initiatives, education for their children. So we also run non-formal education for their children, so that they are not they're not forced into waste picking. They deserve, they get what they deserve, to get. So we our NGO partners enroll them into non-formal schools for a year, and then they are enrolled into formal schools the next year. So this is how we have mobilized these strong waste picker force. Next slide, please. And proud to proclaim that because of all these efforts from last 16 plus years, now we can boast of a network throughout South Asia, which has 5 recyclers, collections across 41 cities. And would you believe that we also work with the Indian Army for collection of these cartons, because the Indian Armies consume milk in Tetra Pak cartons, and you would understand, you would know that these units are deployed in the far-flung areas of northern Kashmir or northeastern India, where milk or other drinks in normal packages cannot reach. They'll get spilled or spoiled. So we also encourage these and partner with these army units to collect cartons, so that they can dispatch their cartons after collection to our nearby recyclers. And last but not the least, we also do consumer awareness initiatives with partners like RUR. So thanks, Monisha, for this partnership. We have 230 drop-off points in Mumbai and Pune. So it's a program called Go Green with Tetra Pak, which which has its origins and its majority of the landscape in Mumbai, wherein we interact with the individual shoppers like you and me, visiting Reliance Retail, Sehkari Bhandar stores, and enthuse them to start bring back empty cartons from their home, and put it in the drop-off bins, so that they can they can be sent for recycling rather than littering on the roads. Next slide, please. So all the initiatives which I talked about, it's from Tetra Pak. You have heard from Tetra Pak. So the question would be in your mind that, is there a third party or a credible agency who can validate Tetra Pak's efforts? So the answer is yes. So the agency is TERI, which is a leading think tank, the Energy and Resources Institute, and they carry out a study for ascertaining the recycling of cartons every 3 years, once every 3 years. And during the latest study which was done in 2019, happy to share that in the 20 cities where they carried out this study, they came out with this result that almost half of all paper-based cartons are recycled in those surveyed cities. So which was a great honor on our great badge of honor, on our shoulders. So this is how we validate our efforts. Next slide, please. So Tetra Pak, like I shared initially, Tetra Pak is just one stakeholder in the entire value chain. like I said, the value chain can be efficient and can fetch the best results if each and every stakeholder admits to and fulfill their responsibility to the fullest. And one key stakeholder is our customers, because it's not Tetra Pak which is putting the packaging, the cartons into the market. It is customers, the big guns like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, like Parley. So companies like that. So we have 2 years back we created this platform or coalition called AARC, Action Alliance for Recycling Beverage Cartons, which aims to bring all the stakeholders together under this umbrella, so that whatever Tetra Pak had been doing solely and in isolation, all these efforts, all the intellectual property which Tetra Pak has created over the years, that can be utilized upon and acted upon, and the recycling rate for cartons can be further increased. So from, let's say, from 50% to 80%. Tetra Pak cannot alone do that. We want the help of other active stakeholders, and like I said, your role is of paramount importance, because consumers like you, it starts with you doing the source segregation of waste, and further the municipality collecting it from households, brands, the customers doing the collection,
Sumit,
and Tetra Pak
hi,
providing
Sumit.
the
Yeah. Thanks, Sumit. So we can wrap up because we have Neela's presentation as well. So.
Yeah. I'm just wrapping up in 1 minute. Next slide, please. So I've already talked about this this programs, consumer awareness programs, Go Green, and it's the key to responsible recycling. Like I said, the onus is on end consumers. So next slide. I think I'm left with just yeah. This is the final slide. How you can help? You can very well help. Like I just to reiterate, it starts with you. So let's together take this take this challenge to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So thank you so much, everyone, for your patient hearing. Sorry, I took more time. Over to you, Monica.
Thanks, Sumit, for that insight on the recycling journey. I'll hand it over to Neela to present her story about how she has adopted zero waste lifestyle in Indonesia. Over to you, Neela.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to share my screen. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, of course. I'm Neela Pati. I come from Indonesia. So we are island nation, and I'm a part of a Yongo constituency, as what Hita already mentioned today. Thank you very much for the presentation previously. It's really insightful. And I would like to touch upon several subjects also later on. And of course, we are running out a little bit extra time. I hope it's okay for everybody. So as I said, I'm part of the youth constituency of the UN. That's why I'm here sharing a story about youth, and then how we are trying to give impact to the world, let's say. I have several statements of the day. If any of this statement applied to you, can you please give me a plus on the chat? So if any of the statement that I mentioned is applicable to you, please give me a plus in the chat. Thank you. Right. So all of us use plastic packaging. All of us use derivative of the plastic packaging, and all of us, involved with this kind of disposable packaging and single-use packaging. So it's everywhere in our life, as what Tetra Pak said, that it's in every single packaging that we have at home, milk, tea, you name it. But the whole problem is that when it's not being treated properly, it will end up in the environment. And this is where I come from. our beaches are littered, not only from the waste that has come from the island itself, but also from the waste from the ocean. And this is really damaging on the natural terrestrial. This is really damaging on the fresh water, because our fresh water is being contaminated also. And of course, with the marine inhabitants, it's also not good, because fishes are starting to eat plastic. There's coral bleaching. So we also have issues with the tourism, because all of the coral is bleaching due to increasing of temperature and the acidity of the water in there. And as what we know, that 80% of plastic or trash that comes into the ocean actually come from land-based activities. So we are responsible on what's going on in the ocean. And we know, based on research on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, that in 2050, it is predicted that there will be more plastic in the ocean than fishes. Coming from a biggest island nation in the world, I am concerned. I'm feeling like, okay, maybe, we should do something about this. As you know, Indonesia is the 4th biggest populated country, as India is the 3rd. And then unfortunately, being the 4th of the biggest populated, we are the 2nd on the distribution on the plastic, mismanaged plastic that comes into the ocean. In the amount of plastic or waste that is being produced, only half of it is being disposed in the landfill, and the other half is actually ended up in the water, in the environment, and in the ocean. Maybe you're questioning, well, what about the law and regulation? I guess it is also applicable in India. We do have law and regulation in Indonesia, but unfortunately not everything is being enforced. So as youth, we are focusing on how community and social behavior can be changed for this issue, let's say. Talking about small island is a bit different. We have a different approach than a big island nation. Why? Because small island is there has a lot of limited resources. We are places that is very isolated, and we have a scarcity on land. Besides that, we are also susceptible toward natural disaster. We are very vulnerable to external influence, such as the increasing of the sea level. Climate change is very big one. And then, like acidification of the ocean. And then our waste source is not just come from land-based activities. It's also come from the ocean. Because as you can see, there is a way of transporting where people are moving. Where people are moving, they also bring trash, they also bring waste. And I kid you not, probably waste from the coastal area from India can also end up in Indonesia, because ocean is just connected everywhere. And as you can see, coming from island, we have issues on the lack of proper facility to dispose and recycle the waste. Where in India, like in our previous speakers, there are some facilities that can be implemented. On small island, it's a little bit tricky, and I will come to it later. And of course, because there's no facility, people start to do ocean dumping or burning their trash to get rid of their trash, right? And to come up with a solution on this issue, we need to know numbers. So Indonesia can be comparable as a small island developing states. So people who come from Maldives, for example, we are in the similar situation there. And as you can see, the small island that is in the Pacific area actually produce really small amount of trash. But the problem is that this trash is not being treated. So what can we do to do this? Unfortunately, traditionally, coastal area is not, it's not being perceived as a beauty or nature, traditionally it's just a dumping site. You dump your trash next to the beach. So what we do on small islands where I come from is that we try to educate and we try to collaborate. How we educate people is we arrange various beach cleanup. So in the beach cleanup, the amount of trash that we found a lot are plastic and textile waste. And the next speaker will talk about textile waste, of course. Besides beach cleanup, we also do seminars. We educate the people, we involve them. And this involvement is not only come from talking, but we also make them act. So in this picture, you see a group of young people on the island. And we try to actually, you know, make a group of young people that are passionate and would like to do something and would like to change their island. So it's come from within. The second thing that I did on the island together with the people is the implementation of waste collection and waste recycling. So as what Monisha said about composting, 60% of waste that is produced in Indonesia are organic waste, and all of this can be composted, can be used for, you know, for natural fertilizer. The rest can be recycled, such as the PET bottles or the plastic that is being discarded and disposed. And the third solution will be about upcycling. So this is interesting because clean waste, before they are being recycled or being shredded, we can try to upcycle them when we clean the trash. So as you can see on the left picture, it's basically like a fake flower decoration made of plastic bottle that is being sold. So it's a financial incentive for the people who are collecting this plastic bottle. And they are, you know, making it as an art that can be displayed, that can be sold around the area. The second thing is that this is a sachet packaging. I think our friends from Tetra Pak know how difficult it is to separate different layers of trash or you know, like plastic with paper, with aluminum. So this sachet packaging is being upcycled into bag, for example. And the fourth thing that we do is we collaborate with shops. To reduce single-use plastic, we cannot just change the people. We need the shops and the seller to actually create changes and feeling empowered that they were like, okay, let's do this. So for example, from this picture, the food is actually wrapped in banana leaf, which is biodegradable. So people can just dispose it wherever they want. But when they buy it, it's being packed into this tiny little plastic bag, as you can see in the back side. So what we would like to do is we would like to get rid of the tiny little plastic bag and then, you know, like ask the seller, like, okay, you know what, do you have ideas? You know, so involving this seller that is coming up with ideas. Some of them said like, oh, maybe I can create it in a box, for example, or maybe I can just have like bigger leaf instead of a tiny banana leaf. So because the idea comes from them, they're really excited about it. They would like to do something about it. So I'm not coming there as in like, okay, this is the solution. I talked with them. I said like, okay, what would you like to do? What would you like to change from the current situation? So this is something that we do also. However, of course, some of you guys might know, okay, you know what, that's for small island. It's not really for me. Right? And what is important is that this is something that I believe everybody, including you, the 93 people who are listening at the moment, are president. If you're not president, then at least you are a minister of economy at home. So you are a president at home. So your home is the constituency that you need to work on. You can have a decision on things that you bring to your home. And be smart on the things that you bring to your home. How can you do this, right? Another approach is to create a zero waste lifestyle. Well, okay, zero waste is not equal to no waste. I'm not saying that you're not producing any waste. I'm saying that from the waste that you're creating, that you dispose in the landfill, that you burn or, you know, throw in the ocean or bury it, for example, try to stop doing that. Instead, we try to focus on maximizing the resources that we have until it cannot be used anymore. For example, coming from small island, unfortunately, I did not have a collection point like what the collection point from Tetra Pak. So I did not use Tetra Pak because I want to minimize my waste that coming into the landfill or the ocean, let's say. So I really hope like I can collaborate with the Southeast Asia Tetra Pak, for example, to bring the recycling of the packaging and then, you know, try to have, instead of linear cycle, but the circular cycle of waste management. The next thing is that zero waste lifestyle is all about simplifying your life. We're living in a very busy life. Your phone is keep pinging, social media is going everywhere. You have, probably some of you have a webinar in the next 5 minutes, for example. So we need to simplify our life and pick the one that is important. learn to say, it's okay, this is good, this is enough, and not having excessive life, not buying everything that, you know, your friends probably said like, this is cool, but then you don't really need it. And of course, zero waste lifestyle is about creating harmony with nature. We want to have like life that is in line with nature. So it's not just people and profit, but it's also for the planet. And zero waste lifestyle is also not about not using any plastic. If I'm not using any plastic, I will not be able to give this, you know, presentation to all of you via my laptop or via my phone. So we need plastic, but we need plastic to be circular economy. We need to be, you know, treated as something that is durable, something that is reusable. And if I want to give like imagination for you, imagine plastic like a diamond. You will not want to dispose your diamond everywhere, right? The thing is that when plastic end up in the environment, it stays as long as a diamond, maybe longer. So we need to find a way to actually create a value of this plastic to not being disposable, but being reusable. Because plastic is very useful in various industries, such as packaging, as what the previous presentation, for example, mentioning that, you know, the soldiers in the jungle or in the forest in India, they don't have resources, so they need food to be like 100% you know, good for them to be used. Transportation, for example, your car bumper, it's made of plastic. Energy efficiency, sports, your yoga pants, it's made of, you know, like plastic also. It's very useful. You just have to find a way to treat it in a good way. And of course, medical. So this is an interesting perspective, because at the moment with the COVID-19, medical waste such as disposable masks, such as disposable gloves is happening, like, you know, getting thrown away everywhere. So the trash that is being seen at the moment is that, you know, we saw in the ocean, it's not only packaging anymore, but it's also this medical waste. So for those of you who need to use the disposable medical items such as masks and gloves, please help us to dispose it in a proper manner and not in the environment. So how can you do this? There are several easy steps to live zero waste lifestyle. Zero waste lifestyle is not easy, and you should not be perfect about it, because everybody, including me, is doing it imperfectly, let's say. So what can we do? First is prevention. So try to prevent anything that is coming into packaging that you know it cannot be treated in your home, or you know it will end up in the landfill or incinerator. The second is implementing 6R. So if the RU recycling reducing is only 3, I'm introducing the 6R in here. So the 6R is the first thing is about rethink. We need to rethink before we buy anything. We need to ask ourselves, do I really need this? Can I borrow this instead? Or how can I dispose this? You know, how can I dispose this when it's end up like, you know, in the environment, whether it's actually sustainable or not? And then refuse. Learn to say no, thank you. It's very important to say no, thank you to the plastic straw that comes to you, to the plastic bag that comes to you. And reuse. Reuse is, as what I said, reuse. If you are at home and you want to live zero waste, you have like this metal tin. I really love this about India. There's so many metal stuff that is being used, you know, for cutleries and, you know, for food, let's say. So these metal containers that I think your mom probably used, you probably use it when you're younger to go to school as your lunch box, for example. Reuse that. You have it at home, please reuse that. Or you have the plastic one that probably, like, for example, my mother will freak out if I lose one of this certain brand of the plastic container. Then use that one. If you have it at home, please reuse it. And then reduce. Reduce means that, you know, you try to not dispose as much as possible, as much as trash as before. For example, if you're ladies, maybe try to use menstrual pad instead of the disposable single-use sanitary pad. If you are a man, try to use safety razor. You remember the James Bond movie when they shave like with the old safety razor? That safety razor can last you for a long lifetime. And then what you do, the next thing is that rot, as the first presentation of today, is that composting or making your own garden is very important. So as 60% of your trash is actually organic waste. This is actually one of the most efficient way to treat it. And the last one is recycle. So notice that I don't put recycle as the first thing that you have to do. This is the last resource when you cannot really do anything that I mentioned, the first 5 things that I mentioned. So recycle should be the last resource, because it still need energy. We still need, we still need resources to do recycling. So it's not like doing recycling is actually reducing the waste altogether. It's not. It's just, if you cannot really treat it, if you really have to, like for example with the soldiers that is in the forest, they have to use packaging, so they have to learn to recycle the packaging. So this is something that you do as a last resource, let's say. Yes, okay. Now, how can you implement all of these 6 R's? The first is that you have to find your goal. You have to find your motivation. My motivation is that I want to be remembered as somebody that do a little bit of good to the earth, as instead of somebody that do nothing or worse. So I try to do things from my home, from my own comfort zone, to start living zero waste, let's say. Maybe your goal will be like, okay, you know what? I want to stop buying a single-use disposable plastic bottle. So that's one goal that you do, right? And then what you have to do next is that you need to get to know your waste. This is a saying in our country that you cannot love something if you don't know something. So you need to get to know your trash. What is the percentage of the trash that you produce? That is organic, that is in a Tetra Pak packaging, for example, that is in a plastic packaging or in the carton packaging. And then focus on only one thing. Start with one thing. Start with probably only the plastic bottle. And then after that, you use the 6R approach, right? You use the 6R approach on your daily life. And the next thing, you invite your friends and family. So I'm not saying that this is gonna be easy on being, like starting your sustainable journey at home. People will look at you strange. My mom, for example, saying that I will die of starvation because everything is packaged in plastic. So there is no way I don't buy anything that is in the single-use plastic. But I survived after 4 years. And then after you invite your friends and family, so education, communication, having this dinner conversation is important. You come back again to your first goal. Every month, recheck this. Check your goal again, check your motivation, and then do the waste audit, get to know your trash again, whether actually, what you do is actually giving impact on the trash that you produce. And then continue with a new things that you would like to give it a try. So this is a step-by-step approach, because it's a long journey of living zero waste. This is not a challenge that is like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do it for one time and then it's done. No, this is something that you would like to do continuously, and then you would like to improve every day. And why you want to do this is because you matter, because what you do is important. And what I like to say is that you have to start with something that is small. You have to start with something that you can control. And you have to start today, because climate change is a huge issue. It's a scary issue. People get crazy because of this. But what is important is that if you focus on something that you can control, you can actually create a contribution. So there is one saying that I really like, is that a little drop of ocean, little grain of sand, make the mighty ocean, and little drop of water, little grain of sand, make the mighty ocean and the pleasant land. So thank you very much. And I would like to bring this conversation to our next speaker that will talk about the textile and fashion waste. Thank you.
Thanks, Neela, for those insights. And over to Ishita, our youth of the day, and her movement, Too Fast movement. Ishita, yeah, over to you.
I'll just share my presentation with you guys. Just give me a second. So, good morning, afternoon, evening to respective attendees, whichever part of the world you're in. My name is Ishita and I'm from Bangalore, India. I won't bore you with another introduction, so let's get started. Who are these kids? What do they all have in common? All these children suffer from various physical and congenital malformations due to their toxic surroundings, which are contaminated by incineration plants and landfills. Are we responsible for this condition? Can we save the generation of these communities from a lifetime of misery and pain? Not directly, but collectively, the decisions we make as individuals certainly have an impact on the inhabitants of these regions. Studies by the British Medical Association suggest that people who live around landfill sites and incineration plants are not only more vulnerable to a wide range of autoimmune disorders, but also are at high risk of developing throat and mouth cancer. One of the most common compounds found in landfill sites is polyvinyl chloride, also known as plastic. According to a study by the Center of International Environmental Law, the plastic life cycle will add 850 million metric tons of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere this year. To put this into context, that's the combined mass of 4.2 million blue whales, the heaviest animal on Earth. Shocking, isn't it? But what shocks me even more is despite the general population being aware of the devastating consequences of greenhouse gases, which include respiratory issues on a local scale and climate change on a global scale, only 8% of plastic discarded is recycled, 12% is incinerated, and the rest is dumped in landfill sites. The graph below shows waste management over the past decades. As you can see, recycling has only started to gain traction since the beginning of the century. The graph also shows that plastic production has skyrocketed in the past few decades due to factors including globalization and capitalism. Something has to be done. Poor waste management is an under-discussed yet pressing modern-day issue. Promoting sustainable recycling practices is crucial now more than ever before. As our resources deplete at a rapid rate, it is only a matter of time before we exhaust them, resulting in an international crisis and devastating economic implications. Recycling has countless benefits, including reduction of waste sent to landfills, conservation of natural resources, reduction of pollution, and creation of jobs. However, the reward for recycling and the repercussions for infrequently recycling aren't necessarily immediate. It can be hard for people to make the association between their daily habits and their habits' consequences. In this age of discovery and revolution, scientists have come up with unique ways to upcycle their material in order to manage resources more efficiently. But all their interventions are futile if we don't address the one fundamental problem, the lack of waste segregation at source. The EPA estimates that 75% of American waste stream is recyclable, but yet we only recycle about 30%. Many people use the excuse, recycling doesn't make a difference, it isn't important. They consider it a low priority, claiming to always forget to recycle. But what can we do about this? We can provide information and raise awareness about how their recycling efforts directly affects their community. Norway follows a really unique and effective method for recycling where more than 95% of its plastic bottles are recycled. I will go into more detail about this in the following slide. Norway endorses a bottle loan scheme. Hence, when you purchase a bottle of water, the bottle isn't technically yours. Instead, it can be exchanged at the several thousands of reverse vending machines or over-the-counter stores and gas stations in return for cash or store credit. Additionally, the Norwegian government has implemented an environmental tax on plastic producers, which can be reduced the more they recycle. This method not only reduces plastic demand, but also reduces greenhouse gases by a significant amount. Another excuse that I always hear is that recycling is inconvenient, time-consuming, or inaccessible. But what can we do about this? We can initiate a curbside program and partnerships with grocery stores and convenient drop-off sites to increase the number of people that participate in recycling. Here are 10 ideas that you can implement into your own lives to reduce waste. 1. Segregate your waste. 2. Learn to repair things rather than discard them. 3. Buy single-use batteries. 4. Like Neela said, create a compost site and make your own compost. 5. Avoid bottled water and disposable plates. 6. Use electronic media instead of paper. 7. Donate your old things. 8. Use reusable bags instead of disposable ones. 9. Buy second-hand electronics. And 10. Recycle and reuse food jars for storage and refills. Many of you might think, why me? Why should I take up this initiative, or why should I recycle? There are 3 billion people in this world who are struggling to provide themselves with the most basic resources, such as a clean and constant supply of food and water, shelter, and simple sanitation facilities. We can't expect them to go out of their way to take care of the environment. So, we, the people who are fortunate enough to lead healthy, happy lives, have a duty to compensate for their shortcomings. We have to go the extra mile to ensure that all schools and corporate offices and residential communities as well have recycling facilities. I strongly believe that anybody can make a change, and even the most basic initiative can have long-lasting effects. Good news for us is that in this day of social media and technology, it isn't too difficult to start a movement and rally people to your cause. Every single one of you has a potential to change the world. I'm going to be talking about the fashion industry now. The global apparel retail market is currently worth $1.34 trillion in sales per year. Fast fashion contributes to 60% of the revenue in the clothing industry. So you might be wondering, what exactly is fast fashion? Fast fashion is clothing that is readily available and inexpensively made. Clothing is produced at a slower rate by luxury brands. New high-quality clothes are released 4 times a year. On the other hand, fast fashion clothing produces clothing at an alarmingly fast rate, with new clothes coming into stores up to twice a week. Most of the time, fast fashion companies manufacture low-quality knockoff items at a much lower price to attract customers. They cut costs by producing in bulk and not availing to ethical and environmental standards most of the time. More often than not, clothes are designed to be disposable, which means that they are more difficult to recycle, and the material is ultimately incinerated. While this is profitable to many fast fashion companies such as H&M and Forever 21, it comes at a steep price of having detrimental effects on the environment. From the growth of water-intensive cotton to the release of untreated dyes into local water sources, to workers' low wages and poor working conditions, the environmental and social costs are involved in all aspects of the production line. We currently live in a consume and dispose world, where after only using an article a couple of times, we decide to dispose or recycle it. While we are all encouraged to recycle our clothes, despite our best efforts, they may end up being incinerated or piling up in landfills. The Too Fast movement is an initiative that aims to reduce waste in the fashion sector and also provide a platform for clothing donation. It would be totally unreasonable for me to tell you to stop shopping from your favorite fast fashion stores and instead spend double the price on the same product from another sustainable clothing brand. But I can tell you that by wearing an article of clothing for 6 months longer than you usually would, you can prevent tons of CO2 from being released into the atmosphere. My platform provides people with creative ideas to upcycle their old clothes into something that they would go out and buy. This includes track pants to shorts, t-shirt dresses into tops and skirts, and the list goes on and on and on. It also allows you to donate some of your old clothes to underprivileged people, as most of the time when you donate your old clothes to charity or send them for recycling, they end up in landfill sites because nobody wants to buy them. I'm currently working to create a platform where people can come and take a pledge to try to endorse more sustainable fashion practices. These pledges will generate pledge points, which then can be matched with finance from our corporate partners like TCS and IBM. This money will then be used to fund a needy cause. I strongly urge each and every one of you to pledge themselves, as together we can make a real change. I'll leave my email in the chat box, so if anyone wants the link, they can use it. Thank you so much.
Wow. Wonderful, Ishita. That was really insightful, and we will all pledge with you to gain those pledge points. And it's really overwhelming and heartening for me to have the youth here, like Ishita represented today. Gives me a lot of hope for the future. If all kids your age start thinking like you, we will surely have a safe, secure, clean, and green planet. So you really need to get more of your friends and more people to join this movement. We all in our own way today in this webinar have shared perspectives, and we hope all of you lovely participants who patiently heard us out for this hour. Sorry, we've extended a little bit, 5-10 minutes here and there on the time. Do stay. We as panelists are here to address your questions. We will request an extension for about maybe 10 to 15 minutes once okay. To take more questions. So Dr. Aparna is our moderator for the questions. She will select a few questions. We'll try our best to answer them. Any questions left unanswered today, please accept our apologies, but we will send you an email. Do email us your questions, and we will make sure the right answers are sent back to you. So we'll do our best to answer the questions now. Aparna, if you can share us the first question.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. So it was truly lovely to hear all of you, very insightful, and there are lots and lots of questions from Sumit here, and a couple for Manisha. So for Sumit, mainly the questions are, Tetra Pak carton is mostly multi-layered, like there are multiple layers, and so how can you say that they are 100% recyclable? Do you separate them? If you do, how you separate them? And lastly, you make furniture out of them. So if the furniture is broken, how do you repair that? How can that be 100% recyclable?
Sumit, over to you.
Yeah. So the answer to the first question, that Tetra Pak is multi-layered, very rightly so. It's multi-layered paper, since it constitutes majorly paper, and the paper from the rest of the elements, that is plastic and aluminium, it can be easily separated. Like I gave an example of a mixer grinder, in our homes. Similar, you just relate it to a bigger pulper, which the paper mills have. You put all cartons with paper, and through this hydro pulping process, the fiber gets separated from the plastic and aluminium, and both of these items then go into separate streams of recycling and turned into different kind of products. So this is how we claim, and we have proved and implemented recycling of all contents of a beverage carton. The second question, could you please repeat the second question again?
Well, the
Yes,
second
so
question
if
was basically
chair-
if the furniture is broken, or if one of the
Right.
recycled
So
Tetra Paks
yes,
recycled into a school desk, can it be further recycled again?
absolutely. Yes, it can be, because the furniture, it is made through the second technology which I talked about, which is called the full carton technology. So once the furniture completes its life, and then or either it's broken, it can be returned to the recycler and can again be shredded, because these furnitures are all, if it's a furniture or it's a carton, the first process in making of those boards is shredding of the material. So let's say if it's furniture also, it is made up of cartons that can again be shredded and turned into fresh boards, and then can be reused to make products.
Thanks, Sumit. Next question, Aparna.
The next question is for Neela, that from Amanda. Amanda, she is from Indonesia, and she'd like to ask question: how to convince or empower community to do recycle or composting, or and their neighborhood level? As we know that there are programs from our government, but implementation doesn't work well. So I think both Neela and Monisha can answer this question.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Hi, Amanda. I'm very happy to see fellow Indonesian in here. Okay, so to answer the question is that what is important is that to treat people as people. So we need to talk with them heart to heart. If you are in this community that have this problem of, convincing your friends or your neighbor, talk to them, ask them why would you do that? What would you like in the future? Don't you like to have a clean environment? So engaging them in this conversation and, having them to actually find the solution instead of giving the solution actually makes them want to do something about it. And not only that, you need to do follow-up. The moment they say like, okay, you know what, maybe we should have like separated waste collection, then you can help in the follow-up. You can say like, okay, maybe we should try to invest in this different like containers on bin and everything. So communication is very important. And of course, you cannot just force people to do something because everyone have their own reason to do things. So what we need to do is to make them understand with their own perspective, why we need to take care of the environment and why we need to change our behavior into something that is more sustainable. I think that will be my answer.
Thanks, Neela. I would just like to add to that, Amanda, and to the others, that when you want to take up a community initiative, yes, the first key, communication is key. But what we've also, in my experience, when I started with my own apartment complex of 28 apartments, there were like half who said, okay, we'll do it, we'll segregate, we'll compose. And I was like, let's start. So we also implemented a solar plant in our building, and we've implemented rainwater harvesting. Waste management is different. You put a solar plant, you even needs to come up to the terrace to see the panels. You will get solar energy. It's taken care of by the grid. And, the installer comes, the sun does the job. You really don't have to do much. But in waste management, it is people participation. If there is no segregated waste, we can't compose. If we can't send it to the recycler, if it's not cut, clean, flattened. So to engage the community, to get like from 10 to 20 to 30 on board. For me, what has worked is the fruits of the waste. So when I put the terrace garden in place and I sent, coriander, which is very popular in India, to everybody's houses. Ooh, oh my God, coriander on our terrace. And they came to my house and they started applauding me. They, gave me an award and all that. So till then, nobody had come to see the composter. It's when they saw the tomato, the coriander, and they could make their own salad and eat it. They saw the fruits of the composting, and the fruit is where. So you got to be patient. You start the project. Nature is so amazing. Environment brings it back to you. Let the gifts come. And when I gave our this residential complex the first garden bench made from Tetra Pak cartons, fully recycled, and everybody sat around and chatted on it. Then they started talking about segregation. So waste management success can only come from people participation. It is a day-to-day habit. I'm in 10 years, I still am guilty of throwing something out that should not go where it is. I mean, it's a habit. It's like brushing. Sometimes you don't brush properly, you still get a cavity. So, don't get stressed. Just do it. Allow the fruits to come. The community will follow. Next question.
Yeah, the next question is, what is the best way to deal with the hazardous waste? If both Neela and Manisha could throw a little light on this, how to deal with this.
Neela, you want to take it first? Hazardous waste?
Please go ahead, Monisha, please. We
so
switch.
Hazardous waste is, hazardous waste is actually what Neela said in the top of the pyramid, is to refuse, right? You go with the first hour, you avoid. So if you have disposable batteries, you switch to chargeable ones, you have sanitary napkins, you switch to a reusable menstrual cup. It takes time to look for green alternatives. You have a plastic toothbrush, it's just a bamboo one. So hazardous waste is waste that cannot be treated easily in a decentralized setup. You don't get enough volume, especially like multi-layer packets, the thin gauge ones, which are just plastic fully, which are not paper-based. They get converted into energy. So energy is still very environmental impact is high. So you only answer to that question is reduce, 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 refuse, 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 look for green alternatives. And you got to go item by item that you're trashing out. So there are, in my home and those who have adopted zero waste lifestyle, Like Neela had one of her Instagram videos I show, she's put aloe vera in her hair. And I also put aloe vera in my hair, and now I'm not using the shampoo. So, like I have an organic farm, we don't spray any chemical pesticides. We allow prey predator to thrive, let the plants grow, let the bugs come eat them. Allow natural things to happen. You won't have hazardous waste. So just put on that switch and switch to greener alternatives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Hello? Okay, I completely agree on that. I also would like to take a look on the chat that my friend Joshua is also answering the similar question. Thank you very much, Joshua. And that's absolutely true with Monisha, is that the focus is of course reducing, but I think it's also in India, but in Indonesia we have the waste banks. So in a small region of community, let's say, there is a waste collection. So do not dispose it in the landfill. If you actually have a hazardous waste like batteries, or that has lithium in it, or any chemical waste, dispose it properly, bring it to this waste bank because they know how to treat it properly. Otherwise, call your municipality. They should know things about the, hazardous waste and how to treat it. But of course, as what Joshua and Monisha said, try to prevent it as much as possible coming to you before you actually having the trash.
I'll just add to this because it's a related question. Somebody else has asked that now with COVID-19 around, a lot of people are going to use PPEs, personal protective gear, masks, gloves. My answer to that is yes, I, in the waste management industry, am worried with the amount of disposable stuff. What are we going to do? Only answer is incinerate because we don't want the virus to contaminate. But as individuals, I believe an organic cotton reusable mask, wash it, have two in your pocket, wash it every other day, wear it. I've been wearing a mask every day. Works well. Organic cotton masks allow you to breathe also better. So usually I've found that when you are in line with environment, it's in line with your health. So health, safety, and environment usually come together. So to answer your question on the COVID-19 situation, unless you are going to be needing to wear because of your immunosuppressed condition or something, whoever can must switch to organic cotton mask. Of course, you got to check with your doctor if you need otherwise, but that's the answer to that question, which is linked to this waste that cannot be treated or needs to be incinerated.
Thank you, Monisha. I think we are 10 minutes past our given time slot. If people want, I can take a couple more questions. If you're okay.
I'm okay. We can go 5 more minutes for everybody before dinner. They have in India dinner time. You can have food for thought.
Yes. One question for Sumit. Why did China stop accepting the Tetra Pak cartons for recycling? If you'd like to throw some little light on this?
Yeah, sure. So China, So China, China was considered the world's dumping ground, before 2018, and the government took a conscious call during late 2017, to stop, to ban the import of all kinds of used packaging and used waste material. And that's that's why they started this nationwide policy called National Sword Policy. And from 1st January 2018 they stopped and banned the import of all used waste material, be it hazardous or non-hazardous. And that's why they have used cartons also, which were people were sending to China, because China has a thriving paper industry. There are n number of paper mills with huge capacities there, and so those cartons were no longer being sent to China. So they are now kind of thriving on the local material.
Okay,
This is my response. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So thank you everyone. I have tried to cover the most diverse kind of questions, and I believe that we've answered most of the questions. Thank you so much everyone for joining in here, and I think we will take thank you from everyone. And maybe if the speakers want to add any last thoughts on this, or then we can close the session.
Thank
If I
you,
can add-
Aparna. Neela, you can add something?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I can add, I can see that there is a lot more other question that is going on in the chat. So if you would like to ask that question to me, for example, please feel free to, reach out to my social media account, and then I can post it also in the chat. And maybe Aparna can help me to collect all of the question, and then I can answer it later on. And then maybe RUR can help me to share it to everybody.
Yes, that's a great note to end on. We are open. The idea was today to sow the seed and germinate over time. So I'm sure once you go back, you do a waste audit. That's the first step. Check what you're consuming. Check what you're, what kind of waste you have. What's happening to it. You will need help. It is easy, but it requires some expertise. And we are here to help you with RUR Green Life. As far as all your waste management queries or processes are concerned, we will make sure all questions that were asked in the chat box get addressed. Post the webinar on your email. You can email us at info@rur.co.in, and we will, address you. Our website is www.rur.co.in, which has a lot of information, blogs, and latest updates on stuff. So we are on social media, RUR Green Life. We also have a handle for our Tetra Pak program in Mumbai called Go Green with Tetra Pak. It's an Instagram handle, on Facebook as well. Constant information about how the cartons are to be deposited. And I think someone right in the beginning asked this question. Yes, it is. Cartons will be recycled even if you don't clean them, but to ensure storage and transportation and recycling, you must clean and flatten them. So that makes all recycling more valuable. Any kind of packaging or any kind of waste, it's preferably stored in your own home for a while. So remember to cut, clean, flatten, segregate. These are just some things. Pledge with Ishita. And yeah, that's how you can stay tuned with us. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Neela for, bringing us some amazing personal insights. And Ishita for her young, youthful energy, giving us green hope, and to Sumit for a really strategic, sustainable solution at corporate level, like what industry and companies are doing, gives us hope that when companies think about sustainability, we as consumers, as citizens, can only benefit. And we wish all corporates think people, planet, profits, the triple bottom line. And of course, to Hita, to Marie Claire, to the whole Youngho team for providing us the Zoom platform to help us with all the arrangements in terms of reaching out to people. You guys are great. You've been wonderful. We hope this collaboration is begun on a strong note, and we do many more such initiatives together. Collaboration is the key to cut carbon emissions. So let's start with that. Thank you all. Namaste from India, Mumbai. And stay tuned, take care, stay safe, stay sustainable, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, Dr. Aparna, for the back-end support. Thank you, RUR team. I'd also like to thank my friend Nijara Rastogi at Tetra Pak, who has been helping us spread this mission on carton recycling in Mumbai. So thank you, Nijara, for being here, and to all of us, and stay blessed. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thanks.